Right, what's up? Welcome, welcome. We got another week in February, the last 2 days of February, actually. So 27th through the 5th. I'm mainly looking at two pairs, gold and Bitcoin, but I do have some other pairs that I'm just kind of watching, seeing what they do. And then as soon as an opportunity presents, I'll take on it. And then, of course, Ethereum too, just watching this as well. So Bitcoin, we've been tracking and entered already. So actually, yeah, we'll just start in the daily. If you take a look at the daily past few weeks, we came to this level, spiked it out once, came back down, took that high out, took an entry, sold, then it pulled all the way back up, and then it just drained. And it took out this low as well as this low and grabbed a bunch of orders right here. And then it sprung up to these highs. So I'm actually going to delete this and I'm going to use this line for now. So this daily high right here, what I'm looking at is how at first, let me go with this. When price came up to this high right here and this high, it had a huge rejection. So that tells me that there's already a bunch of sell orders coming in the market at this level around 38, 39,000. And then what happens is it slowly moves up and it just liquidates everyone out that took shorts here. I placed an entry here as well as a couple other people that I know. And it's just been sideways, which was expected because the weekend. And what's unexpected is it's technically still the weekend. The new week in the market open is at 7, so 3 hours, but it has been dumping. So let's take a closer look at that. And then we'll look at going forward this week in case we get another entry. So what I look at here is, yeah, this low, high, low, high. Then we spring up, we take these two highs out, chop around right here. We wick this area again and drop again. And then we get the third and final spike that came all the way above these daily highs. And then you can see how it broke structure, pulled back a little bit, wicked above this high right here, dumped, broke this structure. Then we pulled all the way back way earlier this morning to 40,000 almost. And from that point, just been straight dumping. So let me delete some of this. Hopefully you can understand how the order flow and how that all worked. See how price, what is this? Price is pushing up in this channel and then structure broke right here. And now we've been expanding in this channel. So I think we're going to get something like that essentially. Looking at the daily going forward, just holding the position at like 39.6 thousand, 39.7 thousand area. And what I'm expecting is some form of pullback after the new weekly candle starts. Because of the size of this wick on this weekly candle right here, that tells me there's still some pressure and there's a good chance that there is going to be some sort of wick formed right here before we start pushing down. So zooming in on the daily, where do I expect the wick to be? This area is the first area that I'm going to start to look at as it pushes up into 38.6 thousand. I'm going to see how it reacts, similar to like right here, see how it pushed into these highs and it got a reaction. So second level is going to be the open of today's high. And then the third would be up here. Actually, let me go to the 4 hour. This point, I really don't think it's going to go past anymore. So I'm really betting on a pullback into this area and then maybe spike around similar to this sort of flow, how we get the highs and then it kind of corrects and then it spikes again. So there's a good chance that we're going to pull up here and do that and then see the full dump. However, That's more likely to happen as long as this 4-hour closes with a wick. So if this 4-hour closes down here, then we're still probably going to pull back. We probably won't hit back here, but maybe wick into, like this area right here. So it all depends on how the current 4-hour closes. And the target, of course, is the lows. I'm actually going to go to the daily. It's still 30,000. I mean, we've been shorting this thing since like up here, shorted it here, taking that short again. What I'm essentially looking for is this sort of flow. So we got the initial dump down, we spiked low and we pulled back, and then we chopped around for a few days and accumulated orders, and then we finally dumped. So what I'm looking for is basically the same thing that happened there to happen here. So we had that first dump, which is what this is, and then we had that spike, and this is where it's going to dump from. Kind of like right here, actually, as far as like this pullback goes, you see how price dumped, and then on this one day, it pulled all the way back to this high, pushed all the way down there, and actually closed lower. And then the next 2 days, it dropped. We could see something like that here, where price consolidates and slows down right here, and then in one day, it just snaps all the way up to these highs, and then continues to drop to the full target. So that's it for Bitcoin. Does anyone have questions on the Bitcoin? I know I've been going over in the chat like every day, so everyone's probably already up to date, but yeah, that's pretty much a very similar thing I'm looking for. See, right now we could be in this initial dump right here, and then we could pull back a little bit from here and then move down and then get that quick snap and drop. Not exactly like that, but just how the market is flowing and how it's breaking the structure, but then it'll come back and snap up and grab liquidity. Same style movement is what I'm expecting here. And gold has been crazy. I mean, like literally every day on the open, it just explodes. And I think we might get that today as well. Hopefully. What I'm really looking at here is for this to continue up because of the fundamentals of the war, everything going on with that, and the technicals really. Because if you look here on this low, you see how price exploded, made this low, continued up, and then it dropped. And it dropped below that low. And then it chopped around for a little bit here, pretty sideways, and then it exploded, but it never came back to that low. I'm expecting something very similar to happen here. So we have the low exploded up, huge numbers. I mean, 800 pips up and 1,000 pips down almost in a matter of like 24 hours. It's crazy. We stopped out this low, all of these lows, most importantly, this low right here. So what I'm expecting is for price to maintain this low right here. Obviously, when the new weekly opens, it has to come down and make some sort of wick. I do not think it's going to take this low out. If it does, we'll look to take an entry here. But for now, what I'm expecting is the lower 1880s to be touched and rejected, and then we push up. It all depends how the market opens too, because honestly, the market could open with like a crazy gap just because of all the news. So kind of being patient with gold here and just waiting to see what happens. And of course, the VWAP, which I'll throw on Bitcoin. I'll flash back to Bitcoin and show it, but you see where I placed it right on the wick where it first came in here and rejected. You can see how we're going to be under the VWAP right here. So that's also a confluence. Let me go back to here and show you. Actually, we'll go to the 30-minute. Let me delete this. So right here, just as another example, you see how every time we enter, price would be above here. That's just another example of that. And the weekly, actually, let me delete this first. You can see we're also above the weekly. So the new weekly is going to start soon. Honestly, my guess is the price is going to stay down here for the next few hours, just in this area. Then the new weekly will start. So the VWAP will look like this, it'll be like super small. I think we're going to come up to last week's upper VWAP right here, which actually, if I overlap that, this is going to be dragged down. So that would pretty much line up with each other. Now we're getting like double VWAP, double confluence. Yeah, but that's that. And that is gold. So we'll see what happens with gold. I'm going to give gold some time to do its thing after the market opens. We'll see what it's doing around New York session tomorrow. And that's the two pairs that I'm really just paying attention to. But if we just quick glance at these two, pound yen. So my plan was enter around 157.3, and it tapped that area to the pip in the middle of the night. So I didn't have an alert or an order or anything, so that entry didn't happen. And then it just dropped. Huge wick down here. So I'm just waiting to see what happens now. Does price pull back into these highs so we can enter again, or does it just sink down here? I'm probably not going to trade it this week because we're looking at the daily right now, and I'm looking to see a multiple daily candles print out. And by the end of the week, I'm not going to be taking entries anyway. So probably next week for pound yen. Ethereum, I have yet to place a trade on Ethereum, but I have been marking it up because it moves a little bit differently as far as like the flow of it goes. But I heard that the leverage, like the contract size with Ethereum, it's similar to US 30. So you don't need a big lot and it moves a ton of pips. But as you can see, I just marked this high right here. We spiked that out. Got one more spike right here, pushed up again, could not break the level and completely drained. So target for that is going to be 21.5 or 21.50. And maybe even 1700. I mean, I'm not in it, but just watching it, I believe that we're going to see something similar to what Bitcoin is doing. Probably 1 hour. I would assume a pullback into this area, and my screen is blinking for some reason. So Ethereum, there we go. That looks better. I would expect to pull back into pretty much 2700 area, and then a continuation. And the pound to Aussie. Oh, that's 11 days. Drained. It completely drained. I entered this on one of my funded accounts and I can't hold it over the weekend, so I couldn't swing that. But if you remember, the entry was right here at this fib right here. So it dropped, it spiked right there. And then I placed a sell limit right here. And then in the middle of the night, it spiked that, dropped, then it went straight sideways for like multiple days. As you can see from right here, 6 days. So it was technically in the same price for 6 days, and then it took off. And I just personally wasn't really paying attention to the pair, and I already had it closed because I couldn't hold it over the weekend. But that dropped to the target one of like 500 pips, which is brilliant. It's unfortunate I didn't enter that in my personal account to swing it, but good trade, good opportunity. There's that stall right there, multiple days. I'm watching this to see if it pulls back up all the way to this high. If it does, then I'm going to plan to enter and swing that to the full target of down here, which would be, if I measure this from here to here, that would make sense. So we'll see if it pulls back. I'll just keep a monitor on it. The weekly. Look at that weekly is crazy. Huge wick. It would be sweet if we get something similar to this flow right here. See how we had this dump, pull back even 2 weeks, but on the third week, we take an entry and hold that for a couple weeks. I mean, that would be, that measurement doesn't line up exactly unless it pulled all the way back up here. We'll see the Fibonacci. That makes way more sense because the Fibonacci lines up with that daily. So going forward with pound Aussie, I'm just patiently going to be waiting for price to pull back into 1.89, or I should say, see if it does, because there's a really good chance it might just make like a, how many pips would that be? Like 100 pip wick and then dump. That's a lot of sell pressure. So we'll see what happens. But yes, definitely, if it pulls back up to this area, I'm going to be looking for sells. I mean, it would make sense to see something like this happen. If you pay attention, actually, that's pretty crazy. See how we have this, then the explosive move. So we have this, and then the explosive move, then the dump. So it'd be great if we get a pullback, and then this is a while. I mean, this is multiple weeks. This is the daily time frame. But I mean, what's a couple weeks for 700 pips? All you gotta do is enter one time, then just wait and just sit patiently for 700 pips. So that'll be a good opportunity as long as that comes into fruition. We'll see what happens. Well, that's all I got, guys. We'll see what goes on. Should be a good week. See what happens with gold. The market opened in an hour. Gold should be crazy. It's possible that gold's going to be crazy when the market opens. So I'll be watching that.